my story. I'm new to Reddit and I upon this subreddit. Reading your experiences brought back all of the anguish and rage that I felt at the end of my marriage. So I decided to write my tale to offer you a ray of hope and to show you that everything works out in the end. My ex-wife is 50 years old and I'm 55. We've been married for 23 years and together for 25. So, a little background. I am a country lad from Alberta, Canada, born and reared on my parents' dairy farm. I relocated to Ontario to get a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. After graduation, I returned to Alberta and began working in the oil sector, mostly in the automation of large oil processing facilities and oil and gas drilling. I made a lot of money and purchased a home in the city. My ex-wife was introduced to me by a colleague. She is an accountant who works in the financial department of a large retail firm. We hit it off right away and began dating. We lived together for 2 years before marrying. During our stay in Alberta, we had 2 sons who were 19 months apart. Around the 5th year of our marriage, she received a promotion that required her to relocate to the corporate headquarters in Ontario. As a result, I resigned from my work and we relocated to Ontario. I rented and retained my home and then purchased a new one with my ex-wife. I found a new job in manufacturing facility automation. She swiftly progressed through the ranks of the firm for which she works, and she is now a high-level manager. We both earned very good money and live a very affluent lifestyle, with frequent family trips, new automobiles on a regular basis, and a home loan that was paid off quickly, so we are practically debt-free. We had a highly social life there, and we knew a lot of people from our university days and her upbringing. Everything went wrong in 2016 when I was laid off from my work, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and returned home early one day after doing some errands to discover that my wife was having an affair with my closest friend, college roommate. I managed to catch them in the act. He was a buddy of ours, tall and attractive, divorced for infidelity, you know the sort. She pleaded and uttered the typical things that everyone says, that she loves me, that it was a mistake, that we can work through it, that our marriage is the most important thing to her, and so on. I didn't want to reconcile because I couldn't see myself as a jail guard following her around and hunting for ghosts in my relationship. I know what I'm worth, so I booted her out of the home and filed for divorce. I called the kids who were at university at the time and informed them what their mother had done, which caused a lot of pressure in their relationship, which she thought was needless and petty on my side. I phoned my so-called pals to inform them what had transpired, and most of them were unaware. One even told me that this affair had been going on for 3 years. I was clueless. Maybe because I was naive and absolutely trusted my then wife. After learning this, I avoided any touch with my ex, instead channeling all communications via my lawyer. I removed them all from my life and never talked to them again. During that period, I became sad, had anger difficulties, did not sleep, and did not eat. It was the most agonizing ache I'd ever experienced in my life. That is something I never want to go through again. I still have nightmares about it now and again. I recognized one day that I couldn't keep feeling sorry for myself and began searching for ways to keep my thoughts busy. Started running and exercising, took up cooking as a passion, and began learning to play the guitar. Anything to block my mind from recalling everything that had happened to me. Playing guitar was one of the things that helped me a lot, but it is difficult to perfect, requires a lot of practice, and took up a lot of time throughout the day that I would otherwise spend wallowing. Jan Arden's The Sound of was one of the first songs I learned. It's a song about healing, and I wholeheartedly suggest it. Another thing that helped was getting a puppy dog, preferably a Rottweiler, the breed we used to have on the farm. Because my ex despises animals, we did not have one. Taking care of the puppy also enabled me to get things off my mind, and having it rely on me gave me a motivation to continue. We sold a home and shared the equity, as well as the money in the savings account during the divorce. RSPs, retirement savings plans, did not need to be split since we both had the same amount saved, and following the divorce, I returned to Alberta because I had a home here and established my consultancy company, which is doing extremely well, especially in this recession. I sold my home and purchased one in Canmore at the foot of the Rockies, with a backyard in the woods. I'm not very good at social media, and I've never been interested in it. I don't even have a Facebook page, so not following my ex-wife was simple, and I didn't want to know what she was up to. In 2018, I returned to Ontario for my son's graduation and ran across my ex. She asked if we could have a cup of coffee and catch up while I was there. I just assured her that I would be in better company in hell, and then went on to ignore her for the duration of the ceremony. My 2 sons relocated to Alberta and now reside 40 minutes away from me. This had to come as a surprise to my ex, since Ontario is 4 hours away by air and 36 hours away by automobile, making it impossible for her to come and see the kids. Not everything is as wonderful as it sounds. I haven't been able to re-enter a relationship. I have trust difficulties and concluded that it would be unfair to my partner if I continued to date. I am alone, yet I am not lonely. Even though I don't have somebody to share my life with, I am quite content with it. My heart goes out to all of you in this sub and what you're going through, but I can assure you that it gets better, and even if you wind up alone like me, it's much better than staying with the cheater and the ghost of their infidelity. Story 2. Wife had 3-year affair with her college professor. She claims she was brainwashed by him. Hello, everyone. This is a difficult piece to write, but it seems therapeutic to do so. I'm hoping to obtain some advice along the road. My wife and I have been married for over a decade. We're both in our late 30s. She decided a few years ago that she wanted to return to college and acquire her master's degree. We both agreed that it was a fantastic idea. Our marriage was wonderful, and we were both quite pleased. It was the most joyful I'd ever been. When she returned to school, her life certainly became busier since she had more on her plate. Her conduct began to shift after a few months. She'd stay out later than usual to study in the university library, or she'd get together with classmates for other projects. She'd sometimes forget something at the office and have to go retrieve it, even if it was late. I had a hunch something wasn't right, but I couldn't prove it. Everything she said made perfect sense. I would sometimes double-check items or look for contradictions, but there were none. Everything seemed to be normal. I just assumed I was being paranoid. I sat down to check my emails one Saturday morning. We have a home computer that she sometimes uses for schoolwork. I realized she had failed to log out of her account from the previous night. I see a lot of emails from one individual before I log her out. I wasn't familiar with the name, so I checked her Facebook and Instagram profiles to see if she knew this person. Nope, so I looked him up on the internet, and it turns out he was her college professor. He was in his 50s, married, and had 3 teenage children. He seemed to be happily married. I was relieved and didn't give it much thought after that. The emails seemed to be harmless. When I was in college, I was always exchanging emails with teachers. I never observed anything strange after that. I thought I was being paranoid once again. After a while, life becomes easier. She was really getting into her stride with school, and she wasn't as anxious or busy as she used to be. We had more time together and began constructing a home. Life was virtually on autopilot, until the horror started. It was a Thursday, and I decided to come home early and surprise her because I wanted to take her out to dinner at a new restaurant that had just opened. I spotted a vehicle pulling out of my driveway as I was going down our street. We passed each other, and I recognized him right away. It was one of her former college professors, so I went into the home right away and saw my wife standing in the kitchen wearing just a towel. She was so taken aback that she didn't know what to say. She seemed as though she was stumbling over her words when she asked why. I was at home. I quickly inquired as to why her professor had just left our home and why she was dressed in a towel. She told me I was being dramatic and that nothing had occurred. So I walked right up to our bedroom, despite her attempts to stop me. When I arrived in our room, it was clear what had occurred. I informed her that if she did not tell me everything, I would call his wife. She finally broke down and revealed everything. They'd been having an on-again, off-again romance for 3 years. She said that it began the semester after she left his class. However, she claimed that he brainwashed her and that she didn't want to do it. She said he was in a position of power, despite the fact that he was no longer her professor, and that she was coerced into a connection over a 3-year period. It's been a week since I discovered the news. When my wife was at her parents' home the following morning, I took my belongings out and hired a divorce attorney. I'm starting to feel like a zombie. None of this seems to be genuine. My wife has been constantly messaging, phoning, and emailing me, pleading for forgiveness and a second chance. Her family is also attempting to contact me in order to persuade me to give her another chance. I eventually blocked her on everything and her family today. Fortunately, I have an excellent support network, and everyone has been quite helpful. I'm planning to make an appointment with a therapist next week to get things started. I understand that healing will take time, and I know that I deserve better. Please accept my apologies for the lengthy article. This was something I really wanted to get off my chest.